Well, good afternoon, everybody. Here we're going to have a look at 2010 B-2. Now this looks like a very nice little elegant question, just a little bit weird. So one of the first things we need to peek at in this one is the scale. Okay, so there we are. So I am just going to convert all of these guys straight away to the measurements I'm going to be using in millimeters. Okay, that's grand, 15, and it's kind of easy. You just can knock off actually the 2 zeros. There we are. Okay, nice and simple, only takes a second, and it means I no longer have to worry about anything to do with the scale. Kind of like the second plan better. Now, to make sure it fits on the page, this is 150 high. Don't seem to have much going on above it, so I'm just going to set my XY line so I have that kind of space. There we are, 150 a bit. Bottom isn't too big. And we'll pop it over here. I'm going to put it a bit off to the right. I can see along the way that they're going to look for traces, and you know, we'll get to the traces later on, but the traces are going to be out here somewhere to the left. So that's why I put it a little bit off to the right. Now, in all of these drawings, they do give you little hints along the way. Draw the given plan and elevation, not elevation and plan. So we'll actually start with the plan, and you can kind of see that it's, you know, we need to have this in place really to draw the elevation anyway. So we'll just figure this thing out, and the key thing here is that that's going to be 55. Now it might be easier to find this point here, in which case if that's 55, alright, let's have a look and see what our other angles are going to be. This angle here is going to be 35. Yep. And that means that this angle here is 35 degrees. So it might be a little bit easier to do that angle just there. Alright, now we'll go down here and we'll just pick this point. There it is. Okay. And let's figure out how to get it. So I'm just going to do a small little construction, and then I can get my 35 angle. I'll just make sure that's up there neatly. And 35, there it is. So this is going to be my angle as I go down. Now when it comes to getting this other little bit here, I'm just going to do sliding set squares. Now I will have to check if I have enough space in the bottom. That'll just take me a little bit of a moment. So there's my angle. And there's the other side of it. So that was just 35 degrees. That's 90, so that makes that 55 degrees. You could measure the 55 too. Okay, 100 long. That is going to bring me out to here. And before I go too much further, I want to check if I'm actually going to fit this in. Wow, looks nice and tight. How about that? So just do, so you can see it's a 65 there, and right to the edge, but that'll do nicely. Okay, again, you may choose to use a slightly smaller gap. Okay, so now that we've got this going on, we'll just project this guy across, get some of our heavy edges in place. Just want to check that projected okay. We have a little wobble here. Yep, lovely. So we'll just heavy in what we can. And we've got a few little details here, 25. There we are. We'll put this in place. And we have another one somewhere, don't we? 30. Grand. So again, just lots of sliding set squares to get these bits lined up. This is all fairly nice and straightforward so far. Now we come to the slightly more fun bit, this radius here. Now this is going to go off my drawing board to see how much we're off the actual camera. it's just down a little bit. We'll readjust the camera if needs be. The diameter the radius is 62. Okay, so first of all, we'll set this to 62. Okay, now what I know is that I know the center is 62 from this point, so it's somewhere there, and it's 62 from this point, which makes it precisely at the very edge of my page. And that's slightly off camera, so we're just going to readjust a little bit. There we go. So you can see what we've done there is 62 from this point here, bring us to this arc, and 62 from that point there gives me that arc. So the center has to be there. Yes, definitely goes slightly off the page. And we'll just check we're lining up nicely. I'm ever so slightly out there because I'm literally on the edge of the paper, but that'll do it nicely. Okay, so we just straighten this guy up for you. Now that kind of little problem finding an arc comes up in lots of places. It's one of our basic little skills, so there's no harm to know. Now we can go off and do our elevation. So this doesn't look too bad. We'll just project a load of these points up and see where they go. So that corner there is on the ground. It's there, as is the other one. There we go. We'll go to the very back of it now. You can send that guy right up. So see that's this point here, 135, and then a little step in. So we go measure that out. 135 and 150. Okay, now this is a little bit more fun for me because I have an entire camera stand in my face at the moment to get this beautiful angle that you're seeing at the moment. But that's working out reasonably well. Okay, so let's think, what have we got going on here? So if we come back to this guy, there's a step in piece going on here. And if you're ever stuck on this one, you can always stick your stuff, your equipment, onto the drawing because the drawings are accurate. So you can see where's the stepping in? Oh, it's there. So this little back bit is lower. Okay, lower down. That's this little guy here. So we'll come up from here. Okay, and do use the drawings and the bits and pieces given to you. All right, and that comes up and it's high the whole way across until here. Okay, you can see that this is up, 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 and at this point it begins to fall away again. So we'll go and heavy that in. Now we have a hidden line in this back a little bit, but that's of course this back piece here. That comes up there. And it's just going to come down like that. And we'll get this hidden line into. Just do all these little bits as you go, because otherwise the tendency is to forget. And then you're giving away easy marks by just not going back to anything. Oh, I definitely go back to them, but you won't. You run short in time. Your mind will be somewhere else, and giving away the easy marks. So let's have a look at this. What else can I draw? And it does say ignore the curve, okay, but I've got this hidden line coming down here, which is the back, of course. So again, we'll put this guy in. Okay, and we've got these straight curves here. Sorry, not straight curves, these straight diagonal lines coming down the front, and that's just going from there, which is going to be up here, down to the bottom, all right, which is here. So that's, you can draw that line in there. And the other one you may notice is going to be parallel to it, but it's fairly straightforward to just draw it like this. But if you wanted to check, you can check the parallels. There we go. Now, that gives us everything except the curve. Fabulous, we're flying. Now, how are we going to do a curve? We're just going to divide it up. So we can divide this fairly easily along little ordinates like this. I wouldn't bother with 60-30, it's just too much of a nuisance. So I'd like to divide it in half and have about 2 more in each one. Let's see how big it is. It's 100 wide. I'll do these in 20s. That'll give me enough to work with. So there we are. We'll divide that up into 20, 40. I'll actually put the 50 in just to give me the center. It can be useful to have that sometimes. And there we go. And if I need these extra ones, I'll go back and put them in. I'll see how the curve works out. So I'm going to do these in green, just to annoy those of you who really would love to use colour in the exams, and you can't, but also to make it clearer on camera. So we'll pop that in. It doesn't really matter how these are spaced once they're reasonably even and reproducible. The nice thing is I can reproduce this fairly well on the other one, on the elevation. So that's the middle. It's just always handy to have the middle. So these are just little 20mm gaps. Now how am I going to reproduce them here? Because I actually can't measure them. If you look at that, that's going to be 82 because I'm not seeing the top edge as a true length. Well, it turns out there's a very nice way to do this. Okay, remember I mentioned that these two guys here and here are parallel because they're edges in the same face. Well, so are all these guys. So if I go up here to either the start or the finish, the start will mean less constructions over the whole drawing. There we go. And I can do a parallel line out from there, and that will be my green line. Now I'll do this one in green, I won't do them all in green. And there we have it. This line is recreated here. Alright, I know it impacts at this point. Again, a few different ways you can do it. I'm just going to project straight up, just as handy because that point is always directly above it. So there we go, and that gives it right there. Okay, so we'll repeat this with the rest of them. I'll just send these guys up. So there we are. I'm going to go parallels. Now, if you're getting confused in your lines, you can always do them in batches, but this is kind of nice to do in a group. And there's not too much here just yet. So there they are, all my little green lines. You know, we might just colour these in green so we can see what's going on. Okay, quick check, all symmetrical, that's great. So we'll pick out the points. This is where each of these guys meets the curve. And we project them up to the line in question. That's going to go quite high there. This one should be my highest point. There you can see it's tricky to see where exactly they come across, but try and get up the midpoint. And this guy should be the same height as the other one, or actually maybe not. No, it'll be a little bit offset. Yeah. And this guy here. There we go. And looking at this curve is actually a little bit annoying. So, you know, it might be easier overall for me just to throw in the other lines. It'll only take a second. I'll try it on one side and see if it's worth it. Because you want to do run a little timer on this thing here. See how long it takes me to actually generate 2 more lines. I'll go back and do the other 2 if it's worth it. So yeah, maybe 10 seconds now. You guys can of course see the time code in the video that I can't. Bring these 2 guys up. There's my points there and there. And there's my 2 lines. At this one, I need to actually track this line, who was the 3rd line, which is this guy. which does look a tiny bit wonky, so I'm going to double check that other one. This one, however, we can get in place. Okay, time has gone a bit long now, hasn't it? As you can see, sometimes it's worth checking them a bit more carefully. That point is going to be there. Doesn't look too happy, that one, does it? So we're just going to recheck the parallels on this. Could be fine, maybe not. Those look pretty good, yep, so it's just going to come out to here. Something is slightly off there. And it's this one. So you can see this little point here. Okay, as it goes up, should really be there. So I'm just going to pop it off there. And that's where these things are nice as a way to cross check. Okay, I did say I get this other line here. The third one is going to go up. We'll just put a little mark, line 3. That's where that guy comes from. There we have it. It looks nice and parallel to the rest of them. And the point on line 1, 2, 3 is there. And that looks pretty good. So I got a nice little bit of a curve coming in here. So, in fairness, that took a few more minutes to do, but it actually popped up a mistake that I made. It was no harm to get. So that is still a little bit on the wonkier side. Just going to try and see, can we steer this into something reasonable looking. There we go. Okay. Try and straighten it out as best you can. I'll go back and throw these other two in since it does seem like there's no harm. So since it's getting a bit busy, I'm going to throw a quick couple of numbers in, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, just so I can track where these guys are starting, because it's getting pretty busy. That's 7, and that one's 9. Now it becomes quite easy to do this. So we're going there. And we'll send these points upwards. So there is, of course, point 7. Going onto line 7. Puts it there. And point 9. Going on to line 9, which puts it there. So you can see that, there we go, we'll bring this out. There's a slightly funky shape to it because we are seeing it at an angle, so that's all wrong there. But as luck would have it, I don't have an eraser at home, which will make this good crack. So we're just going to see, can we tidy this up a little bit? There we are. All right. Not my finest work, but it shall do nonetheless. Now there we are. This is part B done. So this is, you know, just a nice little technique. Nothing too weird or wonderful yet. But now here comes the fun. Determine the horizontal and vertical traces. Okay, this bit, do not be scared of this one. These are much easier than you think they are. D's going to be a bit more fun, but we'll get worried about D when we get to it. Okay, well the first thing is the horizontal and vertical traces are where this object crosses the horizontal plane. And if it was to extend out, you can see it's not reaching the vertical plane, but if it was to extend out, where it would hit the vertical plane. Turns out the horizontal trace piece is pretty easy because there it is. All right, so I need to extend my XY line. Send that out here. And we'll do this trace, we'll give this its own special color. it is. Okay, so we just kind of call that H. We'll put a T down here somewhere. All right. Sorry, the other way around. T and H. Now, that's a horizontal trace because we know this piece is on the ground. Lovely. Now, what about the vertical trace? Well, what we need to do is pick any point on it. So I'm going to pick this point. It's kind of handy. It's there. We'll call that A. And there it is here. There's point A. Well, how do I get to it? What I know is because it's on this trace here, I can follow the same angle. All right. This is what this will look like going horizontally. Okay. Because there's an edge parallel to this horizontal edge at the bottom, which is the horizontal trace. That's horizontal and comes over and hits the plane here. Okay, so where does it go? Well, if it's horizontal, it's going to be going across like this. And if it's hitting the plane here, well, that's where that point is. So I've just come across like this, across, parallel to the horizontal trace, straight up, and straight over to find this point. So you can think of this way, I found another point, we'll call it A dash, and there it is there. If you were to extend A until it touched the plane. Now, this is on the plane, so my vertical trace runs right through it. So that is V. VTH. Horizontal and vertical traces. Now these bits are pretty nice, and I've just realised the camera is quite happily off that whole last sequence, so apologies. Because no one can put up their hands in these videos. So we'll just pause that for a second and re-explain how we did this. Horizontal trace, everything we said, those bits are on the ground. Okay? Take a point here and see where it's going to go. Alright? The way we track across is we go parallel to the horizontal trace. We find out where that point would be if it extended to the vertical plane. You just go up and across, and they will meet there. So that's where that point A dash is, which means the vertical trace has to go from here through that point, just like that. All right, now we'll just ensure we're happily on camera for the rest of this sequence, because here's the last bit, and this is a weird looking bastard. All right, determine the true angle between the traces. Yuck. So one way to think of it is if we had something like this. Let's say this was our plane. All right, I'm trying to see can we arrange it so it was hitting something like that. All right, that's your vertical trace, that's your horizontal trace because it's hitting the vertical plane. All right, and we want to see this true angle. Of course, how do we see a true angle? Well, same way we see any kind of true shape, auxiliary or rotate. Definitely going to try and rotate this guy. And if I could take this set square and rotate it down like that, I'd be able to see it. So now, let's just think, I'm going to have to readjust slightly because my set square is not quite the same angle. So let's say it was like this. Okay, that's my horizontal trace. I'm going to rotate it about the horizontal trace. All right, all I need to know is how to find a point along this edge. Well, let's use our friend A1, A dash. If I'm rotating it about this, this guy is going to move perpendicular. So let's see where it goes. Sliding set squares will better give us a bit more than that. I can feel movement in this one, so we'll straighten that up. Do take a moment, get these things right. There we are. So sliding it down. All right, what colors have we not used? Now we'll do this in pencil. This guy is going to travel down like that. Okay, that's the path of A dash as the plane rotates. So I have one piece of information about where it is. I just need another piece. Well, the other piece of information I need is a true length. As this hits the ground, okay, it comes around, I will see a true length of all the edges. So where else can I see a true length? Well, here to here is a true length because it's up against the plane. So let's go get it. Now my compass may or may not be big enough for this. If it is too big, I'll just use a ruler, but we're going to get it. Yes, we are going to get it. So now I have this length here. And this is comfortably off my page, which is fabulous. So I'm going to make that mark and then readjust the camera so we can see it. Okay, so this length here is my true length. So we just have to extend this guy. I'll show you what this looks like. Alright, so here we have, just pop this in red here. Of T to A dash. Okay, and this here is also that true length. Since A dash rotates, I come along here, I find that guy there. All right, so this now is the angle between the traces, right there. That's where it's going to be. That's how I find out where along it is going to be. So it looks a little weird, it's a little more abstract, but again, all it really is just rotating a triangle to find a true shape.